IT, the reason for this emergency pod, Cam Heyward going to miss several weeks with a groin injury. He's going to seek a second opinion on whether or not to get surgery. A huge blow for the Steelers coming out of the week 1 loss to the 49ers. How do you regroup? Because it's going to be awfully tough replacing the captain and the 6-time Pro Bowl defensive lineman.
Yeah, all we know from Cam is future Hall of Famer, Mr. Consistent, a fan favorite, definitely in the city of Pittsburgh. I don't know about the NFL as far as like really knowing how good Cam Heyward is, but when you want to talk about a guy from other teams and other players respect and talk about top 100, Cam Heyward is that guy. So it's going to be hard in general. It's going to take two off of Cam, one just to replace him, but a future Hall of Famer, man, you just can't go in and say the next man up when you want to talk about a guy like Cam Heyward. So yes, this is going to hurt, especially when it's up front. And you know how we feel when we talk about building your house. You build your house from the ground up as a foundation, and Cam has been a foundation for plenty of years for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Like, he has been so healthy during his career. Coming into the league in 2011, he has played in at least 15 games in each of those seasons other than the 2016 season when he played in 7 games. So other than that, he's been pencil him in for at least 15 games, if not all 16, if not all 17, year in and year out. He's now at the age of 34. It's the reason why we wanted him to have a country club style of training camp. You're going to need him. Now it's the recovery process of when can you get him on the field that is close to 100% as possible later on in the season, because if the Steelers are going to make a postseason run later on in the season, in the back half of the season, Cam Heyward is a player that they're going to need.
Yeah, availability is the best ability, Mark. But when you got a guy who's available, he just so happened to be a future Hall of Famer, it's hard to replace. And the numbers you just spoke of since 2011, man, the average has been 15 games, only 16 games. Now I'm bumped up to 17 games in the regular season. So when you average 15 games plus, except for 1 year, that says a lot about the availability of Cam and the reason why we're talking to being a future Hall of Famer, especially as a D lineman. You don't even want to give him a title or position, because Cam played D tackle, D end. He can play anyone on that defensive line. So when you got a guy like that, of that magnitude, Mark, who can pretty much do it all when it comes down to playing a position on the D line, that's going to be hard to replace.
And he's the type of player who helps TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith off the edge showcase abilities, because if you want to put your attention to a player like TJ Watt off the edge, Cam Heyward is going to win one-on-ones more often than not. Pop on the tape, look at last year's game against Atlanta when Minkah Fitzpatrick had the game-winning interception to put the Falcons away. It was a bull rush caused by Cam Heyward in an A gap, getting pressure on a quarterback on a down, and what that does to disrupt an offense on pass plays and in the running game. So now with Cam Heyward out, I look to 2 young players who really need to step up in his absence, and that's DeMarvin Leal, the second-year player out of Texas A&M, and then the rookie out of Wisconsin, Keeanu Benton as well. They're going to have their opportunity now to showcase their abilities. I'm curious to see if the Steelers make an additional move to maybe bring in a more veteran player, more established player. But those 2 young players early on are going to have the opportunity to try to fill that void and the large shoes left in the absence of Cameron Heyward.
Now's the time, just looking from training camp and you seeing kind of putting Cam on ice because of his age and just getting him ready for the regular season. And the young guys are getting them reps in training camp in the preseason. Now is the time. You didn't want now to be the time, but now is the time. So when you want to talk about having depth, that was one of the positions Pittsburgh Steelers had depth at, was that defensive line. So it's like it sucks because it's Cam and we understand how important Cam is. But when you want to talk about having that kind of depth and where, it's important to have depth right there, and we do.
One question I have, Ike, is the locker room, the veteran leadership. Cam is a captain for the Steelers too. What does that void mean when a player of that magnitude is out for an extended period? We saw it a year ago with TJ Watt, but Ike, from the player standpoint, what's it like being out with a key player, but then a player who also has leadership responsibilities?
As long as Cam is in the building, it really don't matter. It's being on the field, so it takes 2 for 1. meaning it's going to take the two young bucks to equal or try to live up to the hype of what Cam did. And you said something about applying pressure. This young generation, that's what they like to say when they think they're good. All I do is apply pressure. And since Cam stepped into the league, that's all he did between offensive line and quarterbacks is apply pressure. So we'll just see with the two young boys what they're gonna wind up doing. I got a good feeling about them. Did you want them to do it at this time? Nah. But at the same time, you always prepped and wanted them to be ready if things like this happen. So again, having that depth at that D line position, Mark, helps.